Imagine building something so powerful, it eclipses your former boss. NASA once ruled the heavens, SpaceX made it private, but now a new player is quietly rewriting the rules. Sierra Space, born from NASA's legacy, fueled by ambition and chasing something bolder than Mars itself. If SpaceX opened the door, Sierra is stepping through it and changing what the space race means forever. We've all watched SpaceX dominate headlines. Reusable rockets, crewed missions, even dreams of Mars. But in the background, something different is happening. Sierra Space isn't racing for fame or attention. They're building an entire ecosystem in orbit. Born from the aerospace giant Sierra Nevada Corporation, Sierra Space blends government heritage with startup speed. Their goal isn't to outshine SpaceX, it's to outlast them. While competitors chase singular goals, Sierra's betting on diversification, spacecraft, defense systems, and science in microgravity. Because in space, survival depends on flexibility, and that's where Sierra stands apart. Their Dream Chaser spacecraft isn't just another capsule, it's the first piece of a much larger puzzle. A puzzle that could redefine who controls the next era of the sky. There's one thing Dream Chaser can do that Starship can't, but we'll get to that soon. Space isn't just a dream, it's a battlefield. Every rocket launch carries decades of engineering, billions in risk, and one simple truth: there's no margin for error. Building a rocket is like threading a needle with fire. One misstep, one loose bolt, and the sky turns into a graveyard of ambition. Behind every successful launch, there are thousands of failures buried in silence. Engines explode, data corrupts, and months of design vanish in seconds. Every mission is a dance between brilliance and catastrophe. And mistakes? They cost more than money. They cost careers, reputations, and sometimes lives. Financial pressure only adds more gravity. A single failed test can burn through hundreds of millions. Investors pull back, governments question funding, and talent moves on. That's why innovation in space isn't just about building rockets. It's about surviving the impossible odds long enough to launch again. Then there's the bureaucracy. Regulations, export controls, safety protocols, launch windows, all designed to protect humanity, but they slow progress to a crawl. Space is high risk, low forgiveness, and brutally expensive. Most companies never cross the launch pad. Their prototypes gather dust before even seeing the stars. So when a company like Sierra Space steps into this arena, young, ambitious, armed with bold ideas, one has to wonder, how do you not only survive this business, but dominate it? The secret to survival in space isn't just technology, it's strategy. SpaceX mastered this with a simple truth: never rely on one stream of income. Their rockets bring contracts, but it's Starlink, the massive satellite network, that fuels their financial engine. Starlink funds Starship, Starship powers NASA missions. Those missions win government trust, and that trust secures even more contracts. It's a closed loop of innovation and income. This is diversification. It's not just business, it's protection. When one program struggles, another keeps the company alive. Civil, commercial, and defense sectors working together, feeding growth while balancing risk. That's how SpaceX went from startup to empire. Now, Sierra Space is taking that same formula and flipping it. Instead of starting with rockets, they're starting with purpose. Their vision isn't limited to launches. It's about creating the next layer of infrastructure above Earth, habitats, science labs, and technology that sustains long-term life in orbit. Think of it as building an entire space economy instead of just the transportation. The Dream Chaser is only one piece of that foundation. Around it, Sierra is developing defense systems, microgravity research platforms, and partnerships with pharmaceutical companies that see space as the next frontier for innovation. Because in this new era, power doesn't belong to whoever reaches orbit the fastest, but to whoever owns the most pieces of the puzzle once they get there. And Sierra Space, they're quietly assembling it all. Every great story has a moment when the underdog steps into the arena. And for Sierra Space, that moment came in 2021. Born from the long-standing aerospace contractor Sierra Nevada Corporation, this new subsidiary entered the race with one thing SpaceX didn't have at the beginning: experience. Decades of designing systems for NASA, defense projects and orbital vehicles gave them a head start. But experience alone doesn't win new space. What makes Sierra different is its mindset. Where others build rockets, Sierra builds platforms. Their philosophy is simple. Don't just reach orbit, make orbit livable, usable, profitable. At the center of that mission stands Dream Chaser, a spacecraft designed not as a one-shot capsule, but as a workhorse for the next generation of missions. It's smaller than the space shuttle, yet engineered with incredible precision. And unlike traditional capsules that re-enter and splash down in the ocean, Dream Chaser glides back to Earth and lands gracefully on a runway, a spaceplane reborn for the 21st century. What began as a NASA cargo partnership has evolved into a rivalry. Sierra Space is no longer content being the quiet supplier. They're now a prime contender for contracts worth billions, fueled by innovation and led by a team that believes flexibility beats brute force. They're crafting a new kind of space company, one that blends aerospace tradition with startup audacity. And here's where it gets interesting. Dream Chaser isn't just a spacecraft, it's a symbol, a promise that spaceflight can be cleaner, faster, and more accessible. Sierra Space may be young, but it's already playing at the same table as the giants, and their next move could change everything. Dream Chaser isn't just another spacecraft, it's a reimagining of how humanity travels to and from space. Its sleek, winged design looks more like a futuristic jet than a rocket, yet it's fully capable of orbiting Earth, docking with the International Space Station, or delivering cargo to private habitats. Unlike capsules that crash into the ocean, Dream Chaser lands on any conventional runway. That means faster turnaround, lower costs, and far less recovery risk. It's reusable, efficient, and adaptable, able to launch atop multiple rockets from different providers around the world. That makes it rocket agnostic, a rare advantage in an industry that usually locks companies into single systems. Its technology isn't just about performance, it's about practicality. It runs on non-toxic propellants, allowing ground crews to handle it safely without specialized containment suits. It can carry both crew and cargo, enabling flexibility never seen before in orbital transport. Imagine delivering emergency aid to disaster zones in just hours, or sending scientific payloads to orbit and back in record time. This is more than convenience, it's transformation. And in an era defined by speed, sustainability, and reusability, Dream Chaser could become the aircraft that truly bridges Earth and space. Space isn't just about exploration anymore, it's national security. And Sierra Space knows that better than most. Behind its futuristic spacecraft lies a growing defense portfolio worth over $1.5 billion. These aren't science projects, they're missions that protect nations. Through partnerships with the U.S. Department of Defense and NASA, Sierra develops technologies designed for detection, communication, and rapid response. Their work includes satellite constellations for missile warning systems and the construction of next-generation orbital infrastructure to support military operations in space. They're also contributing to NASA's long-term lunar vision by developing habitat modules and life support technology for sustained presence on the Moon. That same technology, refined and scaled, will serve future defense stations orbiting Earth. This dual approach, commercial innovation aligned with national defense, is what gives Sierra Space its edge. They don't just build spacecraft, they create systems that keep data flowing, astronauts alive, and soldiers informed. While the world watches rocket launches, Sierra Space is quietly building the invisible network that will define space dominance in the coming decades. While rockets capture headlines, Sierra Space is quietly focusing on something far more revolutionary, turning space itself into a working economy. Their idea is simple yet profound. Use microgravity as a platform for innovation, because when gravity disappears, science changes completely. Inside orbiting labs, proteins form into perfect crystals, shapes impossible to replicate on Earth. These crystal structures allow pharmaceutical companies to design groundbreaking drugs with unprecedented precision. It's not just theory, it's tested. NASA experiments have already shown that microgravity can improve treatments for cancer, Alzheimer's, and autoimmune diseases. Sierra Space sees this as a new goldmine of innovation, medicine made in orbit for life back on Earth. Through the Orbital Reef Project, a partnership with Blue Origin, Sierra Space is building what they call the mixed-use business park in space. Imagine labs floating above Earth, where biotech firms, universities, and startups rent space to conduct experiments beyond the limits of gravity. This is not fantasy. Hardware for these stations is already in development, but it doesn't stop at biotechnology. Materials behave differently in orbit, opening possibilities for manufacturing ultra-pure fiber optics, specialized alloys, and next-generation semiconductors. These materials could reinvent industries ranging from telecommunications to quantum computing. Crafted in space, shipped back home. Sierra Space isn't treating orbit as a destination. They're treating it as the next economic frontier. For the first time, orbit is more than a scientific playground. It's becoming a factory floor. And the ultimate question, could curing cancer or creating ultra-advanced materials really begin a few hundred kilometers above our heads? Sierra Space believes it can. Every innovation struggles against gravity, both literal and figurative. Dream Chaser, despite its promise, has faced a long road filled with setbacks and lessons learned the hard way. When Sierra first unveiled the spacecraft, launch was projected for 2021. Then came 2022, 2023, and still no confirmed mission window. The delays weren't born from lack of ambition, but from the brutal complexity of spacecraft design. Each component of Dream Chaser must survive temperatures that melt steel, forces strong enough to crush concrete, and vibrations that twist metal as it ascends toward orbit. One major challenge, its landing gear system. Adapted from shuttle-era technology, it needs to deploy perfectly every single time. If a wheel locks too early or a piston sticks during re-entry, the consequences could be catastrophic. Engineers have redesigned, tested, and rebuilt multiple iterations to reach the precision NASA demands. Then there's the heat shield, another inherited problem from the space shuttle era. Sierra Space wanted something lighter, more efficient, yet equally protective. Their solution, a composite tile system, is revolutionary but complex. Each tile must withstand re-entry friction exceeding 1,600 degrees Celsius and integrate seamlessly with the fuselage. Tiny imperfections could mean failure. Launch vehicle availability adds another obstacle. Dream Chaser relies on external rockets to reach orbit, like United Launch Alliance's Vulcan Centaur. But manufacturing delays across the industry have slowed everything down. Even the most advanced spacecraft can't fly without a ride. Each missed date strains investors, partnerships, and morale. Yet inside Sierra Space, the spirit remains unbroken. Every test brings them closer. Every challenge sharpens their resolve. Because aerospace innovation has always been a balancing act between patience and pressure, between boldness and precision. And if Dream Chaser solves these problems, it won't just catch up with competitors. It might surpass them entirely. From the outside, Sierra Space and SpaceX might seem like competitors chasing the same goal, but their paths couldn't be more different. SpaceX is all about scale, massive rockets, towering ambitions, and a clear obsession with making humanity multiplanetary. Their Starship is a monument to brute force, built to carry 100 tons to orbit to Mars and beyond. Sierra Space, in contrast, focuses on flexibility. Where SpaceX aims to conquer distance, Sierra aims to master utility. Dream Chaser isn't built to haul cities into space. It's built to connect Earth and orbit seamlessly, again and again. One is a ship for pioneers, the other a vehicle for practical operations. Both visions are essential, but profoundly different. Then there's diversification. SpaceX derives enormous power from Starlink, a satellite network funding its exploration empire. Sierra Space doesn't have a Starlink, but it has something just as strategic: defense contracts, biotech research, and partnerships that tie them directly to NASA and the Pentagon. While SpaceX dominates the launch economy, Sierra is quietly securing the infrastructure of orbit itself, and design philosophies tell the same story. Starship is vertical: launch, land, repeat. Dream Chaser is horizontal: land, refuel, and fly again from any major runway. One chases the future of exploration, the other enables the future of access. So could Sierra Space ever rival SpaceX? Possibly. Maybe not by building bigger rockets, but by building smarter systems. Because history shows it's not always the giant that wins the race, it's the one that adapts faster. Sometimes, in space as on Earth, the underdog has the better idea. So here we are, two visions, one sky: SpaceX, the fearless pioneer pushing humanity toward Mars; Sierra Space, the rising architect quietly shaping the infrastructure that will keep us there, both rewriting the definition of what space can be. Sierra's journey reminds us that innovation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's patient, strategic, building piece by piece until the world suddenly realizes they've arrived. Dream Chaser could become the aircraft that finally bridges Earth and orbit, the start of a truly connected planet-to-space economy. But what do you think? Is Dream Chaser the real disruptor of this new space era? Let's explore the answer together. Subscribe, share your thoughts below, and keep watching, because the future of space belongs to those bold enough to build it.